What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Fight IQ MMA today. Let's get started with Islam Makhachev's next UFC move leaked. Since Islam Makhachev's win over Hanat Moano, there's been no real news on when the champion will be back in action. At the same time, the division still doesn't have a clear-cut number one contender, given that Dana White said that Arman Tsarukyan will have to earn his crack at the title once again. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel with Kukan, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and Ilot. Looking to compete for the title, the UFC has plenty of options at the table, but according to what Money Moy Connell's hearing, the champion might be waiting to see how things play out between Belal Muhammad and Jack de Molina before deciding his next move. During an all-new video for his YouTube channel, Moano spoke about the situation in Portuguese. Islam Makhachev is waiting on the Jack de la Molina versus Bal Muhammad fight. He's hoping JDM beats Belal Muhammad so he can fight for the 170 lb belt. That'll leave the lightweight belt vacant, and they'll have to do something. Money McConnell is not the only one to predict that the Muhammad JDM fight has big implications on Makhachev's next move. Last month, Ariel Halawani suggested the same thing during his show, saying that if Belal loses to JDM, Islam Makhachev would finally have a chance to move up and fight for another belt. In the meantime, the champion's working on new moves in the gym and was seen smothering his training partner in a video shared online. The same idea was discussed by Charles Oliva's manager and coach Diego Lima and Euro's Sport MMA reporter Alvaro Colonero this week. During an interview, Colonero quoted Lima as saying, if Belal didn't win the May fight, he would have a chance to move up a weight class, and we would be left with Toya and Charles. But if Belal wins, he would stay at lightweight, and we'd have to see with the UFC who would be Tapua or Charles, because depends on UFC and Islam the way he sees things. The lightweight title will likely be up for grabs this summer at the UFC's International Fight Week card, but who will be fighting for the belt remains a mystery. This fight will happen at International Fight Week, which will be huge. I think Makhachev too and Charles should fight there. But to know in this triangle, who against who will be a little bit more complicated. We care a lot about the belt. We want that belt. He told me he wants to fight in June. But if we don't have the BMF or the title, I wouldn't know if we would fight maybe Justin Gaethje, who has made a great fight and sells a lot, or a new fight with Dustin Poirier, who sells a lot. Charles has to fight fighters who are big from the sounds of things. Oliva and his team are in active negotiations with the UFC, with the goal being to get 2 fights in before the end of the year. The last meeting was 10 days ago, and they told me that they were looking at things, that they were pending some negotiations, but they wanted something very big for Charles Oliver, because he's a person who is very big and sells a lot. Charles wants International Fight Week. He wants to fight twice this year. Fighting on June 28 would give him room to fight again at the end of the year. Meanwhile, Arman Kukan may have just booked himself his next fight after Justin Gaethje, or rather someone on Gage's account, who fans suspect as Ali Abdelaziz called for a title shot. Kukan responded, "You barely got past number 11 on short notice, and before that you got sent to the Shadow Realm. If you really want to be the number one contender of fight for the title, you have to go through me first." During an interview with Helen G. Sukian, then revealed that he's targeting a return in either April or May, but so far, Gaethje has not responded to the call. Out Alex Pereira on UFC 313, loss and talks rematch. Alex P. on UFC 313, loss and talks rematch. This past week, Megan and Kive brought Alex P's reign to an end as he picked up a decision victory to capture UFC gold. Although all 3 judges scored the fight for NKV Glover, Teixeira is not buying it. During a video released on P's YouTube channel on Wednesday, Teixeira spoke about the fight, saying that in his opinion, Pito won. "We had this defeat, but, in my opinion, he once said he lost on points. So now we go back to the drawing board and adjust a few things. Train hard and go back and get this rematch and make history. Poan made history before, and he will make history again. He's a great warrior, and I'm very proud of him." Pano Cruz then added that the loss will only help POA to evolve and take his game to the next level. "Rivalries make us grow. It went his way this time, so we'll train more, study more, get better, to deliver you a better version of Poan. More mean what this guy's done was make it worse for him, because he'll now fight Poan 2-0. It's happened to Poan before. It's not the first time. And a true champion is the one that stumbles but continues moving forward and reconquer it. Poan will reconquer the title in there, match a more mean version, and our team will be on a level that is higher than it already is. P also spoke about the loss, saying he's got no excuses and is looking forward to the rematch. "Of course, it's not the result I was expecting. I was very confident for this fight. I was good. I trained hard. Something's happened, of course, but I don't want to give excuses. I know there will be a rematch. They're talking about it already. The way the fight was, many people contested the decision and had their doubts. I still haven't watched the fight yet." Maged continues to call out Alex for a rematch on X. He said, "The following last night, I'm ready for round 6, but this time we not go for full distance. Let's go, guys." After P gets his immediate rematch, Yambovic is hoping that he wins up in position to run things back with the champion for the belt. During an appearance on the Ayel Helwani show this week, he outlined his ideal path to retirement. "I beat Oldberg, then I take title shot against Majid and Kive. I beaten Kive, and then rematch against Pota. I defend the belt against P. Perfect scenario For me, then, I can go to the mountains again while some members of the MMA community use maggot on C's failed takedown attempts against him. Anthony Smith defended the newly crowned champion on his own podcast On Paper with Anthony Smith. Aniv is an absolutely R. He in fact did wrestle, which was very, very smart. I'm not complaining about him wrestling, it's just that not what he said he was going to do, but you probably should wrestle. That's probably got to be the #1 thing in your arsenal. Listen, a failed takedown isn't a failure. Pato was kind of rolling through the first round. He looked super comfortable. He looked like he was having a good time. He seemed to have his own range down just. He looked sharp until the wrestling started. P spends the next 21 minutes worried when Aniv is going to level change either. He's not as bad of a wrestler as you guys say he is, or Makhachev is. Not as good of a wrestler as you guys say he is with an immediate rematch in the works. He will have to wait and see. Paddy Pimblet responds. Paddy Pimblet responds to Dustin Poirier's comments. To Dustin Poe's comments after the Paddy Pimple, Michael Chandler fight got announced. Dustin Poirier was asked how he sees the fight going by a fan on social media. Responding to this, the former interim champ said that although he doesn't like Chandler, fans should hammer the money line for the fight during an interview. With Papa Legaspi released this week, Pimblet fired back. He said something about me the other day, didn't the saying like, it's legends only, and he think Chandler will beat me. So if he does retire, I think he should have more than one fight. He looked good in his last fight. I mean, I don't understand why you retire when you look good. But you know, he must be an idiot. Like, but yeah, you think I beat Dustin Poirier, so I'd love to fight him with Poirier on his way out. The odds of the fight happening are pretty slim. Even if the baddie winds up getting the win over Michael Chandler, so far no word yet on who Poirier will fight before riding off into the sunset. However, it sounds like despite the former interim champion's comments, Pimblet respects him. Dana White releases UFC fighter as a fighter. Dana White releases UFC fighter in the wake of a loss to Marquel Matos on the Duat Emil card. Last February, Landon Cones has been removed from the UFC's active roster. At the beginning of the year, a full year since, his loss to Matos Kinan has announced that he was stepping away from fighting in an emotional Instagram post. I have made a decision to take a step away from fighting. It hurts to have to do this, but this sport has taken more out of me than a normal person can fathom, to the point to where I can't even focus on the tasks in front of me. I love martial arts, and as it has taken so much out of me, it has also given me unforgettable experiences and opportunity. I need a break to find my love for it again, and to give myself security. This is not a retirement post. I'm 29 years old and have plenty left in the tank, but I got to get mine together. Sometimes you need to take a few steps back to take giant leaps forward. When I'm secure, I'm coming for everyone's head. See y'all soon. While he made it clear that he was not retiring, it sounds like the UFC's decided to part ways with Cones. Additionally, in the wake of his loss on this past weekend's Analia Paracard, Jalen Turner has decided to hang up the gloves after initially announcing his decision backstage. Turner followed it up with a post on Instagram while leaving the door open for a turn. Thank you for all the love and support. I started training MMA at 18 in 2013. I started training in my backyard. A SoCal La-born, i.e. raised kid with no path and a big dream. God opened the door to MMA when I didn't know where else to go. I gave myself 4 years to fight in a big promotion, and I did. Then the 5th year I got the UFC in 2018, made it to the top 10 in the toughest division, and made it in a video game. Looking back, it doesn't feel real. I love you all. I'm sorry. I lost my focus and fire earlier than ever expected. 29 years young, time is on my good side. I wish I could reply to everyone's messages. Just know all the positivity has helped me more than you all know. I appreciate it. All things can change. We'll see what the future holds as both fighters look towards the future. The support of the MMA community is definitely behind them. Marvin Vettori goes off on Brendan Allen. Ahead of this weekend's card at the Apex. Marvin Vettori took some time to fire shots at Brendan Allen during media day on Wednesday. The two have been at odds for a while now, ever since they were set to fight back in April last year. At the time, Victoria wound up getting forced out of the fight because of an injury. A couple months later, they were involved in an altercation after the PFL 8 event, with Allen dropping Victory with a 1W combo. The altercation wound up getting caught on camera, but because of YouTube's guidelines, we unfortunately can't show it now. Ahead of Matt's fight with Roman, do it this weekend, he went off on Allen after his loss to Anthony Hernandez last month.
It's not even that relevant. No, to be honest, he was going up. I knew it wasn't going to go past the top 5. So I was kind of wanted to be smart a little bit, where like, let me get it. He has a bit of hype. He's coming from 5-6 wins, and I want to be the one that gave him a loss, you know? But now he's got 2 losses. He was trying to look over me, and look what happened, you know? If I want another easier, not easy, but like easier fight, maybe. If not, if I want to really get into like with the big boys up there, then I'll easily skip him. To be honest, it's almost waste breath to me talking about him.
Although he's UFC's currently ranked 8th Victory told Pavo Verab this week that he'll capture UFC gold and become the first Italian champion. As always, we want to send a huge shout-out to Pavo for allowing us to use the clip.
I think it's very deep. The level of competition got higher. A lot of good fighters, not gonna lie, like a lot of tough fights. But that excites me, that's good. That's good. That means you have to raise the bar in the middleweight division, that's for sure. And that's why I have to raise the bar for myself too. And because if you don't get better, you're gonna get crushed. You're not gonna become champion, I believe. I think it's very deep. We have good fighters and it's good. I'm excited, I'm gonna show that I'm a real contender and I'm gonna be #1, first Italian champion. But step by step, Now all my focus, it starts with Saturday. I have to put on a great performance on Saturday and then we'll go from there.
With Allen ranked 10th, depending on what happens this weekend, a rescheduled fight between the two makes sense. UFC updates ahead. Of UFC updates. This weekend's Victor Doli card. Let's look at today's UFC updates, starting with the change to the fight night. Card on May 17th. The event was originally expected to take place in Qatar, but Marcel Dorf is saying that it's now going to be taking place in the Apex along with moving the location. The UFC also reportedly booked fights between Johnny Walker and Azaman, Musakhanov and Curtis Blades and Rizvan Kuniv for this card. The Walker-Murak fight will see Walker look to snap a 2-fight losing streak that most recently saw him lose to Volkan Emir back in June, while Murakhanov will look to build on a 4-fight winning streak. The most recently saw him finish Alonzo Menafield in the second round last August in the case of the Blades COI fight. This is a rebooking after Blades wound up force off this past weekend's pay-per-view card at the last minute. This will be the third time that these two have been booked a fight. So hopefully this is actually going to take place. Last but not least, we got Billy G looking for a fight. In a post on social media on Wednesday, he shared a picture of a worn-down UFC duffel bag along with the caption, "Yo UFC, my bag is worn out, about time for me to retire. It's so get me a fight so I can get a new one." Goff has been out of action since May, when he dropped a decision to try Watson's. Then he's had 2 fights. Fall UFC reveals Des Moines fight card last night. Through late last night, the UFC revealed some huge fights. The UFC revealed their Des Moines card in Iowa, which is taking place on May 3rd, and it's stacked. It's important to note that the UFC is returning to Des Moines after 25 years. For the main event, we have a 5-round fight between Davidson Figueroa and Corey Sandhagen, with both fighters coming off a loss. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. The UFC also revealed B. Nickel versus Reno Darer, which seems like the co-main event for the card. An amazing fight. For both fighters at the moment, B. Nickel is ranked, and RDR is currently number 13 in the middleweight division. This is a huge fight for Nickel to get into the top 15. Ranking moving on, we have a shocking UFC return. Jeremy Stevens is back in the UFC and is fighting on this card against Mason Jones. We don't think anyone expected. This Stevens was in BKFC and got a huge win over Eddie Alvarez, and we're guessing the UFC was impressed. Andre signed him. What do you guys think about all these fights? Let us know down in the comment section below. Justin Gaethje reveals sad news. Gaethje reveals sad news. In a recent episode of Behind the Curtain of UFC 314 on YouTube, Justin Gaethje revealed that his toes are injured following the fight in his brawl with Rafael Fiv Gay, managed to either break or sprain some of his toes. During the fight, usually toe injuries are a quick recovery, but if Gaethje broke his toes, he's looking to be sidelined from training for at least 4 to 6 weeks. The bare minimum could this possibly hurt his chances of getting a title shot, since Islam Makhachev wants to fight in the summer this year. Like we mentioned, Gaethje could be out for at least 4 to 6 weeks at minimum. And then training camp is usually 6 to 8 weeks. If everything goes right, the earliest he'll be able to return is in June, so let's hope the damage isn't too bad and that Gaethje can return to a potential title fight soon.